Well, good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you all to the launch of the official launch. I won't say the launch, it's the official, formal launch of our One Congregation, One Family program, which will be the kind of headline of this week's bi-weekly press briefing. I want to thank Reverend Nuttall. Where is he? Oh, there he is over there. I want to thank him for hosting us here today, and also for the work that he has done as the director of our Office of Religious Affairs. And I also want to thank Reverend Isaac, who is right there in the front row. Reverend Isaac, of course, chairs the Mayor's Interfaith Council and has taken a huge leadership role in bringing this program from the vision stage now to implementation stage. This past winter, I think many of you know this, we experienced a really an virtually unprecedented demand for emergency family housing. I saw some situations like this back when I was the director of the Department of Human Services, which is a very long time ago now. And we've responded to this with a two-pronged strategy. First is the 500 Families in 100 Days campaign, which is an ongoing effort to move families out of temporary shelters into permanent and stable apartments. And since we've launched the program, we've increased our efforts to get families out of shelters and have identified about 400 new apartments. That would be, if they all get filled, would be somewhere, between 400 and 500, obviously, that we would be able to move into new units and substantially reduce, which we already have started to reduce, the numbers who are in the motels and hotels and DC General. That's a protracted process, an extensive process in which inspections are required of the units before they actually can be occupied. We've worked hard to try to get everybody involved in this, and I want to make a plea once again that if anybody knows of, one apartment, 5 apartments, 10, 15, 20, let us know, and we will put them into the mix and try to get them inspected as quickly as we possibly can. We're working closely with the Community Partnership for the Prevention of Homelessness, which is collaborating with our Department of Human Services around implementation of this effort. Just for those who need to know the number, if you want to reach the partnership, you can do that at 202-543-5298, or of course via email at housethehomeless@dc.gov. Without your help, I don't think we can succeed at this, but we are, at least theoretically anyway, we are 80% there in terms of units, but that 20% is proving to be a challenge, and we want to get there by the date that we set, which would be early in July. During the State of the District address, I also announced the One Family, One Congregation program. I asked then our Mayor's Interfaith Council, which is made up of representatives of our city's various and diverse faiths, to help guide the implementation of One Congregation, One Family. I called on each house of worship, every church, every synagogue, every mosque in the city, to take one family, just one family. We're not asking for any of our houses of worship to provide financial support. It really is more emotional, social, spiritual support. Mentoring is probably the best way to put it, and to put that safety net under them until they are able to be able to fend effectively for themselves. One of the things that we shouldn't forget is that when you look at the families who are in shelter, almost half of them, virtually half of them, are headed by someone who is between the age of 18 and 24 years old, which means they've probably never been in a situation before where they were completely independent, maybe never had to handle financial responsibilities before, and really are faced with a set of very difficult circumstances. Again, we will be in a position to help with the financial requirements, but that's not what we're talking about with the One Congregation, One Family program. With that, we're talking about the emotional support that we know folks need in order to be able to move to the next place. The theory underlying this is that we believe, and I don't want to be trite, but it takes a village to not only raise a child, but it also takes a village to be able to support a family and to provide support for a struggling family. We think by partnering with the faith community that we can engage the tremendous healing power of faith. We're bringing together all the different resources needed to tackle homelessness, and we believe that we can make a significant dent in the problem. I don't think there's any question but that we know that there's a shrinking pool of affordable housing, or has been for a number of years in the city. Over time, over a decade, we've lost about 40,000 people to the District of Columbia. There are multiple reasons why that is the case, but for some it's the fact that they can't afford any longer to live where they are. And so that's also one of the reasons why we've made the investment that we've made over the past 12 to 18 months of $187 million in affordable housing for the city. We have in the pipeline lots of units of housing. We either have finished or have under construction about between 5,000 and 6,000 units of housing. We set a goal of 10,000 units by 2020, and we actually think we can exceed that if we stay on the current trajectory and get to 12,000, which obviously is well beyond the 10,000. In any event, I want to express my gratitude today for all the clergy that have reached out to support this effort, our spiritual organizations, the mentor teams that have come together to work on this, and all of whom recognize the critical nature of homelessness and the fundamental instability that it creates in the lives of people, and are working to try to get people to a different place. Again, we need people who are willing to work with them, encourage them. You know, every faith community with which I'm familiar has social justice at the heart of its mission. And that's really all we're asking people to do, and that is to continue to support people through their social justice mission. Again, we're not asking, they may do this, but this would be purely voluntary, to make any financial investments in these families. But we're doing the basic work of making sure that people have the fundamentals in place. We are supporting people with benefits, helping people find a job, and a variety of other things. We know that there are families that are on board to be able to participate in this and want to make this happen. What we need now are the congregations and organizations like those who are represented here today to step up and help make this work. I also want to express my appreciation to David Burns, our Director of Human Services, who unretired in order to come to this job. David had been in retirement, and we, along with others, appealed to him and asked him to come help us with our Department of Human Services. That's been well over 3 years ago now, and he did it at some personal sacrifices, especially with his family. His family is in Michigan, and so he will be returning to Michigan, and we want to express our appreciation to him for all he has done to be able to help us get to where we are today. This will be your fourth retirement, is that right, David? Fifth. I guess he likes it. And that's over a period of 40 years of working in social services, and of course we will miss him here. He has had some experience with a program like this, unbeknownst to us, We actually came up with this idea, sat down and talked to David about it, and he said, well, I've done something like this before in Colorado, and we were able to take advantage of that experience. Had a team that went out to look at how the program is operating in Colorado. I don't think there's any place else in the nation that's actually doing anything like this other than Colorado and now here in the District of Columbia. So with that having been said, that's the framework of the model, and I'm going to ask Reverend Nuttall if he will come up now and have a few words to say, because he will be one of the key people in helping to implement this. We've also brought on board additional staff to work with this program as well. Reverend Nuttall is the director of our Office of Religious Affairs. I'm glad that he is working with us. He's done a great job also over these 3+ years. And I want to thank you, Reverend Nuttall. And just so we know, you will be followed by Director Burns, then Reverend Isaac will come up, and then we'll hear from Commissioner Nelson, who is a participant in the program. Reverend Nuttall.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this great opportunity to serve. My name is Dexter Nuttall. I'm tremendously honored to serve as the Director of the Office of Religious Affairs under our Mayor, and also serve as pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church here, the church in which we are seated today. This church has been here in this community since about 1902. And one of the core values that has been part of the institution of New Bethel is the exercise of our faith in community. Unless your faith shows up in your day-to-day life and how we deal with one another, your faith really is irrelevant. And so I guess that's why the Bible talks about faith without works is dead. We as a faith community take that very seriously and take it to heart. And if you've been around District of Columbia for any period of time, you know how vital the faith community has been. And as our community continues to change, it is our desire and intent to remain engaged and to remain involved. I'm extremely excited and grateful for all of you who have joined us, particularly those who are clergy and members of the faith community. I see members from churches and synagogues and mosques and communities of faith across the city. I know of efforts that are being made to ensure that there is engagement. Dr. Igail Holness Anderson over here coordinated a community summit just last week in Ward 1, which was a wonderful collaborative effort and conversation between the faith community and neighbors who live in Ward 1. And at the end of the day, that's critical because we will either rise together or we will fall. And so being here at New Bethel, there are 5 essentials that we have learned and talked about frequently over the years that are critical to our ability to thrive as individuals. There's education, there's income, there's health care, there's justice, and there's housing. If we have these 5 essentials, we have unlimited potential. If any of these 5 essentials are missing, life can quickly unravel to chaos. And this is why we are here today. It is because we want to put feet to our faith. And I'm extremely excited about the efforts and the work that has been done within our city government, led by the likes of Deputy Mayor B.B. Otero and Director Steve Glaudet with Community Affairs, David Burns, to come together to create a dynamic that makes our work real and meaningful on a day-to-day basis. I'm extremely grateful for David Burns and grateful for his leadership. I guess it was about a month and a half that he led a delegation of us to Colorado after the mayor had articulated his vision for one congregation, one family, and it is his vision. we went to Colorado and we saw this model in action. We observed how faith communities had worked with state government to create avenues for encouragement and education and health care and income opportunities, just by way of the encouragement and the support that we as a faith community do every single day. So we're excited about this. We live in a country of communities. In fact, at the core of any group that has emerged and progressed in this country has been the cornerstone of family and community. None of us get to where it is that we've gotten by ourselves. And so government can do a lot of things. But one of the things that government cannot do is to infuse life and support and encouragement and love the way the faith community can. So I'm extremely excited, and I urge you, if you are a member of a community of faith, to join with us in this process, to engage with us. If your pastor or faith leader is not here, share the vision of one congregation, one family with him or her. Make the effort to form a small community, and you'll hear more of the details about how this works, so that we can actually give meaning and relevance to what it is that we say that we believe. Because it really doesn't matter what your political disposition is. It really is irrelevant what your faith tradition is. At the core of it all is the welfare and progress and the well-being of people. That's why we are here. So today you're going to hear from David Burns, Director of the Department of Human Services, who led us to Colorado to view the template that we have used to model our One Congregation, One Family program. You're going to hear from Reverend Donald Isaac, who is the chair of the Mayor's Interfaith Council. You are going to then hear from Kamisha Nelson. Is Kamisha here? And I want you to listen very carefully, because she is one of the participants, one of those that we are seeking to support by the One Congregation, One Family program. And I want you to know that there's information with regard to where we go from here that you can pick up at either of the entrances where you came in with regard to Faith Mentor Team training that will be taking place on July 12th, 2014, and July 26th, 2014. Please pick up the information that the trainings will take place at the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center. We do ask that you RSVP so that we can ensure that we have sufficient provisions and are able to accommodate everyone. And I thank you so much for your time and for your presence and for your engagement.
Good morning. I'm Dave Burns, the Director of the Department of Human Services, and I'm just so honored and excited to be here this morning. I want to thank all of you for coming, especially the members of the faith community, to learn more about this effort and for us to begin or expand our partnerships to help families. I also want to thank the Mayor for his leadership, Deputy Mayor Bibi Otero for her guidance and commitment to families, especially those that are seeking shelter or are homeless. And as the Mayor mentioned, we had an unprecedented number of new families coming in, seeking shelter, expressing a desire to get out of the homeless situation. And we've had some great response from our landlords in identifying new apartments for families. But just getting a family into an apartment often isn't quite enough, because they need to have the resources to actually pay for that apartment eventually on their own. They need chances for jobs. They need to overcome other barriers and issues in their family lives. And we can do a lot of that as a governmental organization, but we can't do it all. I often say, and one of the senior pastors I've worked with in the past said, Dave, what would happen if you went out and you sent your workers out to these families and said, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to love you? Well, you know, we do love our clients, but that's not really the focus and the things that that we do real good at as a governmental agency. And we're not even all that great at instilling the hope, because that comes from internal, from that sense of pride, that sense of community. And those are the things and the strengths that we can get from our faith community by surrounding the families with a whole team of individuals from a diversity of backgrounds to help with their success. So, you know, the mayor has always pushed us and asked us questions. When he was confronted with this homeless family situation earlier in the year, he started asking himself and others, what more can we do? And we came up with, through his guidance, the 500 families in 100 days, and we're making great progress in identifying additional units there. But he said, there's got to be more that we can do, and I think he was in church when, you know, the powers came down and said, you know, how can we engage the faith community? And when he mentioned it to me, you know, that I got so excited, because it was over 16 years ago that me and a few senior pastors and members of the faith community in Colorado asked the same questions and started a program that I think has served well over 1,000 families already in Colorado. It started out with mainly around TANF families in general, and has morphed into really concentrating in Colorado now on homeless families, just as we are. But it's not just a matter of getting the churches to put families up, and you know, and churches have done that well in certain places around the country, opened their doors and established shelter systems and all. But this model is to say, what more can we do to make sure that these families are successful? And the resources of the churches, although great, their greatest resource is their membership and the communities that they have. So we're not asking for a commitment of money from the churches, but rather a commitment of the time and energy of the church's leadership and the families in those churches, synagogues, mosques, to develop and recruit teams of 4 to 6 families is what we're talking about. So it's not one person or family from the faith community that's assigned to 6 clients. It's 4 to 6 families that are assigned to one family that has experienced homelessness. We'll be working with them to get into an apartment, and then the faith community, these 4 to 6 families, then become part of the extended community in mentoring for the families. Now, who are these families? Well, all of them will have at least one, and probably several, real good moms. You know, the people who have raised their own children, who can give some guidance on what the kids need. And maybe there'll be an educator on that team that can help with the tutoring for the kids who may be struggling in school, or need to get connected with early childhood programs, or maybe even with adult education programs to help mom and dad and others to overcome and become involved in literacy programs. And we know that the long-term solution is for the families to get jobs. So maybe there'll be some business people or folks that have worked successfully on jobs that can say, well, you know, when you get your job, you really have to be on time, and make sure you've got an alarm clock, and here are some ways that you have to make sure that you're dressed appropriately, and you know, the things that maybe we take for granted, but some of our families may have missed some of those lessons in their progress. So these families come together and work with one homeless family, but you know, the needs of our families are so immense that they can be overwhelming, even for a team of 4 to 6 families from one congregation. So the congregation then surrounds themselves around each of this team that helps the families and provides that support. And that's what we're talking about, the community effort and everybody being there to assure the success. There was a time when this communal support was probably more organic and more ingrained in our society, but we've become more isolated with all of our social media and people going in other directions. So this reestablishes that sense of community. We're very purposeful about this. We know that it's not an easy job. When we went back out to Colorado about 2 months ago, we had a chance to see the curriculum and the way that the families are trained, because sometimes it takes even more than just love. You have to have a little background, a little understanding of what the needs of the families are, and a little appreciation for how big a struggle they're going, and also to let the teams know about the resources that are there to support them and the families in their struggles and in their progress. So the training is essential. The matching, and be advised, this is a completely voluntary program for our clients. Nobody is saying you have to take this team, you have to be involved in this effort. But there are a lot of families that are expressing the desire, the need, the want of having the teams and other people there to support them. So we don't think that we're going to have any problems in recruiting enough families to participate. And then, of course, it's voluntary on the part of the churches. We have a lot of resources in the District of Columbia to pay for the initial vouchers for the rent, transportation, help in getting jobs. Those things are still all going to be there, but this is going to make it a much richer, and we know from experience of the families that have been so successfully served in the model in Colorado, and it's in about 8 different communities now throughout Colorado. So we have an experience to build on. We don't have to start from scratch. We have the curriculum. We know the pitfalls. We know the things that we have to watch out for. There's a good screening mechanism here, so that we know that we have a good match. We've been able to find a wonderful staff person to help lead this that we've assigned to the project, and providing some funding to make this work. So we're very excited about the efforts. We know that we'll be able to get probably hundreds of families matched in the next several months, and just looking forward to the success and the future of the children and families in our communities. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Reverend Donald Isaac, who was also part of our team to Colorado to talk a little more about what he's seen in the vision from the faith community.
Thank you, David, and good morning to all of you. My name is Reverend Donald Isaac, and I serve as pastor at Southeast Tabernacle Baptist Church, and also have the distinct pleasure of serving as the chairperson for the Mayor's Interfaith Council. And thank all of the persons who spoke thus far. And I don't know about you, but I just have an attitude of gratitude this morning. Is anybody just grateful? I'm just grateful just to be alive. It's a good time to be. It's a great time to be alive. It's a good time to be here, and it's a great opportunity for us to serve. We certainly want to give thanks unto the mayor for his tremendous leadership, not only on this issue, but his tremendous contribution to the city and to the area of social services, to B.B. Otero, who is his deputy mayor for human services, to David Burns, and to Reverend Nuttall for his great leadership with regard to the faith community. And I'd like to then thank each of you for being here this morning. I've been looking around and perusing the room, and I'd like to just, as I stand as the chair. I've had the pleasure of serving as the chair for the Mayor's Interfaith Council for the past 3 years or so. I'd like to just ask of all members of the faith community, clergy or membership who are here today, could you just stand for a moment? Just give them a hand. I'd like to thank you. Thank you. And many of the persons who are here represent organizations, conferences, and therefore their reach is greater than their individual presence being here. When we first came together as the Mayor's Interfaith Council and attempted to define for us some focus or some definition of how could we best impact the city, serve the mayor, but most importantly to carry out our faith commitment, we adopted as a theme then justice for the poor. We thought that of all of the issues that were around and of all of the challenges that the city had, that one thing is, and we certainly commend, and I think we ought not lose face, that we've had a great body of political leadership. The mayor has defined this initiative, and they've called it as a clarion call to the faith community. Oftentimes when when the government calls to the faith community, they want the faith community to do something for nothing, but they put dollars behind the commitment. They've provided the staff, the technical assistance, and other resources, and just also asking us to come forward to carry out our faith mandate in that regard. And this initiative to serve families impacted by homelessness, I can think of no better initiative or no more significant initiative that allows us to accomplish that thing, justice for the poor. So certainly we are glad to stand today because we see this as a movement with meaning. It is certainly one that, as Reverend Nuttall has already indicated, that housing is one of the basic tenets that we need to have healthy, wholesome families and communities. With this launch today, the movement is officially started. The momentum is indicated by those who are here and many others who have expressed their support. I thank the mayor for his leadership on this issue and his focus on this issue and his tenacity and his determination to transform this problem into a stepping stone of where we can improve the lives of many. I'm thankful for this opportunity to work on an ecumenical manner by those who are united by our faith to provide an actual manifestation to the living fact that we are in fact our brother's keeper. So we, therefore, as the faith community, take this charge seriously, take it with joy and great commitment to go forward and to touch the lives of men, women, and the children who are impacted by the demon of homelessness within this great city that we have. And I close with this example. I thought about the fact that I've been very blessed to have longevity in my family. My mother's 93. Her brother lived to be 97. Their baby sister is 89. And each of them still reside within, and they still resided within the homes that we have lived in all of our lives. And so today I'm proud to say that my mother is still living right on Capitol Hill, 13th and Massachusetts Avenue, in a 5-bedroom house all by herself. And while many people, when they hear that, it say it's something and it's a good thing and it gives us joy. But think about that, especially as we multiply that number throughout the city, that she's sitting in a 5-bedroom house by herself while tonight someone is sleeping under a bridge. We have to begin to reconcile that and make a better allocation of the resources that are in front of us. So with that thought in mind, we're glad to see this initiative started today. And we welcome all of you to come forward and let us make a great impact to just continue to lead the city to on the road of being the greatest city in the world. Next, I would like to call forward Kamisha Nelson. And she's one of the participants, and we're glad to have her. Let's give her a hand as she comes forward, and she's going to speak as one of the family members.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kamisha Nelson. I'm a little nervous. I'm a participant. I just received an apartment 4 weeks ago. I'm very blessed and grateful. I'm trying to, without crying. I'm very grateful. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 4-month-old. We have an apartment. I stayed in a Confident Hotel for 6 months. I just recently graduated. I'm 24. I just got my high school diploma. Once again, I'm very grateful and blessed. Me and my kids. I'm participating in one congregation, one family. I expect to accomplish more goals. Now, since I have my apartment, I want to move to the next step, which is go to school to become a business manager. I love to do hair. I love cosmetology. I want to do new things, do different things. I have 2 little ones that are looking at me. I know this program will help me because they have helped me. And I don't know what else to say. I'm thankful for the people that were put in my life. People are really blessings. People come your pathways, they are blessings. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamisha, and I think you said it all. You know, when you hear somebody who is given at least, you know, an opportunity to put their life in a different direction and has taken advantage of it, having gotten her high school diploma, having, you know, now moved into her own apartment, you know, having 2 very young kids for whom she is caring, and obviously demonstrating what can be done, you know, when government, the faith community, and the people who have needs work effectively together. And she isn't the only one who's moved in. We've had, I don't know, how many people we had move into apartments already. I know we got 400 units that we've identified, and hopefully there will be 400 you know, people who will have moved into those units once it's all said and done. But far more in number than just Kamisha Nelson have moved into their apartments already. And so I want to thank David Burns. I want to thank Reverend Nuttall. I want to thank Reverend Isaac. 5-bedroom apartment, huh? I mean 5-bedroom house, not 5. Yeah, 5-bedroom house, all by herself. That sends hope to every one of us, man. So anyway, we'll be happy to open it up to any questions you may have, the media, about what we're trying to do here, what we're continuing to try to do. Mike.
Sir, I may have missed this, but how many congregations have you signed up? Any congregations already that are already on the list?
I think many of the members of the Interfaith Council have already committed themselves. I suspect that every congregation here today has committed themselves. I have been out on a number of speaking engagements. I was at All Nations a number of Sundays ago where we spoke about this, and the response has been very enthusiastic everywhere we've been. We've had breakfasts where we brought members of the faith community together, and the response was very enthusiastic. We can get you the exact number, Mike. I don't have that. Do you happen to know what the exact number is?
I'm not sure the exact number right now.
Mr. Mayor, could you tell us then, what is the field of opportunity? How many churches, synagogues, and mosques are there in the town?
There are literally hundreds.
Some are very small, some are...
That's right. And the size of the congregation really, I won't say it's irrelevant, but it's not. The issue is whether they have a family or two that would be willing to step up and help us make this happen. Again, Tom, we see this as within the, within the core mission, if you will, social justice mission of why our houses of worship exist in the first place. And as Reverend Nuttall was just saying to me, he thinks it will help some of our houses of worship increase their relevance in the city. So it isn't just a benefit to what we're trying to do, it's a benefit to them as well. But there are literally hundreds. And one of the good things is good in a sense, and that is we know we have a number of houses of worship where the congregation, not all of them live in the District of Columbia, so it'll be a way of engaging in an organized way people who live outside the District of Columbia who want to do something for these families. Yes?
Is there an option for families who would want a mentor but maybe aren't comfortable being mentored by a church? Is there a separate option for those families?
Yeah, yes, there is. David, you want to speak to that? Because many of these families may come to us through churches, and one of the things we've been clear about too is that in participating, we don't want any proselytizing. That is a very clear message from day one, that while we want to engage the faith community, we don't want you trying to encourage people to join a particular church or a particular mosque or a particular synagogue. You're there really to bring the faith experience to the lives of folks, not to get them to, engage in discipleship.
Although we're beginning our focus with the faith community, the model in Colorado has expanded, and we will as well, into other organizations that might be fraternal organizations, Rotary or Kiwanis, or it could be in Colorado. They've have businesses and banks that have a social mission component within their philanthropy, and so there will be opportunities, but our focus initially is on the faith community, and we'll develop other alternatives. And of course, we have other types of mentoring programs already available for our clients who are looking for those. This is really branching out into really helping us engage the faith community, but there are other alternatives for our families as well.
For those who I may not know, again, it's got to be media questions, okay? If you're not with the media, we'll be happy to answer the questions after this session. For those who I may not know who are with the media and want to make a comment or ask a question, please identify yourself.
Kevin McNair with Washington Former Sir. Good morning. Last week I was at the White House, and next week again his summit, the President's Summit on Working Families. I'm wondering, in this initiative, are you engaging with some of your families? Are they working families, or are they working and homeless, or how are you identifying them? Because I'm interested to know who's working but also perhaps homeless.
Well, we're identifying the families because they're the families who've been in shelter. They've been in either DC General or they've been in our, one of the hotels that we've had to engage because of the overflow situation. One of the things that we do, because, with the work of David and Deputy Mayor Otero, we've been able to bring a lot of the efforts together. For example, getting people ready for jobs is a fundamental part of TANF. And virtually everybody who is a homeless family is TANF eligible. So, yes, they are trained for jobs. They are gotten jobs. Some may be working already. Some are not working. But the goal is to get people to a point where they are working and can be self-sufficient. Through rapid rehousing, we can provide, the first 4 months of rent. Then we can renew that for another 4 months, and then we can renew it for another 4 months. So you can have up to a year. And, in certain circumstances, we could extend it beyond that. But the idea is to get people past their reliance upon public support, which, firstly, everybody I've seen, they do want to get beyond public support. So ultimately, the goal is to have people working so that they can feel like they don't have to have this, this experience again of being homeless and back in shelter. All right. Oh, yes.
One more question. The ad that you put in the Washington Business Journal in late May, did you see Did you see an increase in landlord interest after that? Has that been an effective way that you found to get landlord interest?
We've gotten some additional interest that's been expressed, but we've gotten apartments that have been identified that have come to us in a variety of ways. We've met with the folks who are responsible, the Association for AOBA, for example, is responsible for representing a lot of the landlords in the District of Columbia. We've met with them. But interestingly enough, if you look at where some of the sources are of where people have identified the apartment units, one of the interesting sources has been the families themselves. When they knew that this program was being organized the way we've organized it, they've actually identified units and brought that to the attention of the community partnership. I think we've probably had 100, or maybe a little more than 100. Is that right, Bibi? Who have been the units have been identified by the families themselves. And then they go into the pool to be inspected. So it's been a variety of sources. The ad has contributed to it, but it's certainly not been the sole source of of units that have been identified. Okay? Yes. For those who... I was just going to do that, Mr. Sherwood, but since you like to run these, events, I'll let you come up and do it. I know you are. Tom Sherwood has given me permission to allow you all who would like to leave to leave. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to do that. But this ends the one congregation, one family component of today's biweekly. So if you'd like to leave, you can do so now, in 5 minutes, in 50 minutes, whatever your pleasure is. Quiet. Yeah, quietly. Yeah, let me make sure to put that qualifier in there.
This is a very hopeful thing you've announced today, but it's the same issue of...
All right, come on, guys. Those who are moving out, you can continue your conversation in the hallways or outside or wherever you may wish, but please don't do it in here.
Today's announcement is a very hopeful thing in dealing with people who are homeless. I just want to go back, unfortunately, to Alicia Rudd case. I think at the St. Elizabeth Pavilion, you and the Deputy Mayor, Bibi, had said that you guys would release a report showing how all the bases have been touched by the various government agencies. I don't think that report is ever released, or has it been, and I was on vacation and missed it.
I don't know that it's been completed yet. It's a very difficult. I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Otero if she would come up. But it's a very difficult case, very difficult situation, and we're trying to make sure that once the report is released, Tom, that people won't look at it and say, you missed this, you missed that, or you missed the other. So I'll ask Deputy Mayor Otero to bring you up to date on where we are with it.
I recognize it's multifaceted.
I think what we stated was that our initial look, and that was very cursory at the very beginning of this very unfortunate event, was that we didn't see any signs of failure on part of the agencies. The mayor then, if you remember at that time, tasked myself and Deputy Mayor Smith to do a more in-depth review of the case. So that's what we've been in the midst of now, and it is multifaceted. There are lots of folks that we're talking to, case reviews and so on, and I have been I've told the mayor that it will probably take us another few weeks to complete, and so we've engaged all of the organizations, the agencies that were involved in one way or another with the families, and we'll have that report to the mayor probably mid-July.
Even if you can't get me details, it's possible to say at this point, have you discovered some troubling things that you're still trying to figure out that might have gone wrong, or is it still the initial suggestion that everything was done mostly right where you are?
Let me be very clear. We're really in the stage now of interviewing, and I think it would be premature for me to make any statement.
And all that notwithstanding, the investigation of the situation itself continues on. That's a criminal justice issue at this stage, and nothing has deterred the continuation of that investigation. Mike.
Mr. Mayor, last week the U.S. Olympic Committee shortlisted D.C. for the 2024 Games. Can you, number one, give your reaction to that? Number two, say what your participation has been in this bid that's been put together and what commitments have been made and what discussions have been had about that?
Well, first of all, we're very excited about the District of Columbia having been selected as one of the finalists among San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Boston. And what that means, just to give it context, is that we're now one of 4 finalists for the United States to be able to have a city that would compete with other international cities to host the 2024 Games. We provided a letter of support from the very beginning. There's been a committee chaired by Russ Ramsey and Ted Leonsis working on this. There have been other people who worked on it as well. And that's really the lion's share of the work has been done by the committee representing, the effort on behalf of the District of Columbia. So we've supported it. The things that they've asked us to do, we've stepped up and done those things. And again, we were very happy, just like many were, when last week the district was named as a finalist.
What have they asked you to do, I guess is the question.
I think just basically to indicate our support for their pursuit of it at this point. If this gets, past the stage of where it is now, the city will obviously have to participate in the transportation issues that will be associated with this, the housing issues. We've obviously made a huge investment in affordable housing. That could be a component of the housing that would be created in the future for the hosting of the 2024 Games. The idea is, and we've had these discussions with them, is to make sure that what is done has an enduring quality about it, that it isn't just a 2-week event and then people can't figure out what the heck to do with these facilities in the aftermath. So the transportation infrastructure would have value for the city in the future. The housing infrastructure would have value for the city in the future. And that's a big factor for us in our continued participation, Mike, and that is whatever investments are made will be there for years and years to come, not just for 2 weeks of use.
Last question on this. Have you been, has there been any discussion of particular sites for particular things, particularly the Olympic Village? Has your administration identified sites for that?
Not specifically, but there's been a lot of discussion about having some of the sites around the Anacostia River, for example, and having some of the housing sites further east in the city, which is, again, back to my original point about having enduring value, because we know that constructing housing that can be used in the years afterwards on the east end of the city would have a tremendous benefit to the people in the city.
Last question. Has there been a dollar number discussed in terms of what the commitment from the city is going to have to be?
No, there has not.
Well, while we're on sports, the Patents Office Trademark Appeals Board has ruled the 6 Washington football team patents void because it's a discriminatory name. It did this in 1992, and the team was reported and overturned it. But your own thoughts about the ruling by the Patent Office again?
Well, I have said it in a number of ways that really, first of all, I am a huge fan of the Washington football team, and I'm also a huge fan of changing the name of the Washington football team. So this is yet another step in that direction. I have no idea what will happen in the aftermath, of this determination by the Patent Office, whether it will be sustained or whether it will be overturned or not. But I think it's yet another signal that let's try to move on from this, and not us, but the team, move on from this so we can focus on winning a Super Bowl again after a 20-year hiatus.
By the time we get to 2024, perhaps the Washington football team might have its stadium somewhere else other than where it is now.
That would be wonderful. Where it is now is not in the District of Columbia, of course, and there are many people who would like to see a stadium in the District of Columbia where the team would be able to play. I suspect one of those prime sites would probably be where the current RFK Stadium is, And I suspect the name issue would be a huge part of the discussion were that to be proposed.
I have one more question. Politics. I know you're not particularly interested in politics now.
Why would you say that?
Mark Toohey, who you know you've worked with on the baseball commission and you're chairman of the council for getting the team here. Mark yesterday picked up petitions signed papers to run for Attorney General. And Carl Racine also has apparently talked about it, but he hasn't done it yet. Your thoughts about the Attorney General race being held in November, and your thoughts about Mark Toohey?
Well, it looks like there's a high probability that it will be held. The race will be held in November. I think there's the appellate court is still determining what it is going to do, and we're waiting, to see what they decide, even whether they're going to further address this case. Both of those are really fine attorneys. I know both of them very well. I know Mark Toohey very well. Mark has done a great deal of work for the city. He worked on the baseball stadium, as many of you know. In fact, Alan, you worked with him, didn't you, during that time? And he's done a lot of work in the city since. Carl Racine is somebody who I know very well also. He worked on my transition team back in 2010. So I think either one of them would be an outstanding candidate for their position.
If we have this race, you would like to see a robust campaign to pick somebody good.
Oh, absolutely. You want to, the Attorney General position is absolutely critical. I mean, I look at the work that Herb Nathan has done, during the time that I've been mayor, and you realize how essential, the Attorney General is. So you clearly want to have somebody who brings extraordinary legal skills to the position and can continue to grow and develop, an office that now has, I think, about 700 people who work there. It's a huge operation, so you not only need an extraordinary attorney, you need a good manager as well. Mike?
I wanted to know if you'd had a chance to read Marion Barry's new book, Mayor for Life.
I have not.
You'll be shocked.
I have not read the excerpts, nor have I read the book.
Well, I want. Well, I do. I
assume you read Mike's story on it.
I'm over 21.
You are thanked in the acknowledgments, along with a lot of your council colleagues, and you're mentioned in the book. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the former mayor says that if only you had listened to him during the early days of your administration on some of the personnel decisions you have made, many of your troubles could have been avoided. And I wondered if you wanted to react to that suggestion.
I think this administration has done an extraordinary job, and that's really my only reaction to it. I'm not going to get into a debate with Mr. Barry about his views of the history of the District of Columbia. Our record stands for itself. You want to talk about education, you want to talk about housing, you want to talk about development, you want to talk about employment, you want to talk about fiscal stewardship. So if you want to talk about my record, I'll be happy to do that, Mike.
This is Marion. This is Marion talking about trying to define his legacy and what he wants to be remembered for. And I just wanted to get your take on what do you think that his legacy is and should be, and what he should be remembered for.
Maybe I better read the book first.
Do we have time for one more? Talk about personal questions. David Catania this week disclosed that his mother was the victim of severe abuse by her husband, not his father, imprisoned by police dogs. Domestic abuse is still a big issue in the city, the neglect of children and the abuse of spouses. Were you aware of that story he told?
No.
Domestic abuse is a huge issue in the city.
The city and in every other city. It's obviously something that he needs continued focus and attention to. Anything else? Thank you all very much.